Hi guys, so I've been wanting to make this video for a while, but really wanted to organize myself. And to be honest with you guys, the past couple of months have been so ridiculous. I'm not going to go into all the boring details, but I'm finally deciding to just sit down and just talk straight into the camera. I really wanted to organize myself for the sake of not making this video boring. Um, but anyway, I hope that I can be of some help to at least one of you guys out there. As I mentioned in a previous vlog, I am very familiar with interviewing people, with reading resumes and stuff like that, because I do take part in making decisions on who gets hired at the company that I work. And so I just kind of wanted to give you guys some tips on sort of like the insider's point of view, um, especially if you're trying to obtain a first job, like you're fresh out of high school and you want to know like how to get your first job, because it's kind of hard for people who just graduate from high school or from college. Usually people don't want to hire you because you don't have any experience. So my best suggestion for you, if you have no experience and you just graduated, is to figure out whether or not you actually do have working experience. And this can include volunteering at your church. I know that like when I was 15 and 16 years old, I used to teach Sunday school, and I used to also be the assistant for the Sunday school teacher when I was younger than that. So think of things like that, creative things that you've done. What else? Let me see. Maybe if you assisted someone in your school, like a teacher, like grading papers. If you ever painted something for someone, or if you ever helped someone organize their office, or I mean, you have to think of all the things that you've actually done, and yes, include them in your resume, especially if you're looking for your first job. You may think that it doesn't make sense to include those things, but the purpose of the resume is for people to understand whether or not you are a responsible person who has done work in the past. So definitely you want to include those things. And I highly recommend that you use a resume template, which if you're not familiar with that, it is basically you go onto your computer and you open up, like for example, Word, and you do a search under Word for resume template, and it will just have like all these little boxes that you just need to fill out, and it will create the resume for you. So it's already formatted for you, which means it's already placed in the right locations. So for example, if you ever graded papers for your teacher, you want to say something like, oh, and before you put this on your resume, you have to have that teacher's permission for you to put that information on the resume, because a lot of times the employers will call to verify that what you wrote in the resume is true. So you want to write down everything that you did. So for example, like reviewing, or let me not use those words. For example, let's say you used to go through all the tests and then make sure all the answers were right, and then cross off any ones that were wrong, and then write the right answers, and then turn it into your teacher and let her know which ones you were able to finish and which ones you were able not to finish. Okay, that's kind of like the simple way of saying it, but you want to write it in a way where it sounds professional. And this is where you can get like an adult to help you if you're not an adult, or you can get someone who has working experience to help you if you are already an adult but you don't have that office lingo down, okay? Or working world lingo down, okay? So you want to say reviewed paperwork, for example, instead of looked at. Ensured that information was correct, meaning you went through it and you checked for correct answers. Followed directions that the teacher gave, which is true. I mean, if she told you what to do, hey, this is how you're going to correct the papers. Ensured accuracy, which is true because you actually did make sure that all the answers were right. Some data entry. So like, for example, if the teacher had you sit at a computer and type in information, that would be considered data entry, because what you're doing is you're taking information from a piece of paper and you're transferring it into the computer. If you've ever done that, that is considered data entry, and it's especially helpful if you're very accurate about doing that. So like if the information that you're inputting from paper to computer is always accurate, or is as close to accurate, that's a really good thing. So you can say accurately inputted data, or accurately did data entry for teacher. Now, also consider what programs you know how to use. A lot of people don't know how to use like Word or Excel, and then you think you have to go to a class or something like that. And yes, a class is helpful, especially if you're trying to obtain an office job. But it's so accessible now that you can go somewhere like to your school or to a library or to a friend's house, and you can just sit there and just play with it for like a week. If you spent an hour every day just playing with these programs, it can be very helpful for you to learn how to navigate through each program. And there's also like little training online that you can follow. So like if you're here on YouTube, then you have access to those trainings. You can just research like Excel training or Microsoft Word training. Sorry for the music in the background, but it's the soundtrack of our house all the time. Anyway, so those are little things that you can learn. Also, if you have trouble with like spelling certain words, like for example, there, like as in it's over there, and then there as in it belongs to, or it's their stuff, and you think, oh, well, I'm not smart enough, or you know what, hold on a second. So if you're having trouble with those words and you feel like, oh, well, I need to go to night school or I need to go to college a little bit more to learn about those things, those are also things that you can just learn online. You don't have to take any courses for this type of stuff. Just don't let those be obstacles for you learning from home. You can actually learn this stuff from home. Anyway, I'm going off track. Okay, regarding your resume, a lot of times people feel like if you create a resume, you can just send it out viral to a whole bunch of jobs. And actually, the reason why a lot of people don't get callbacks is because the person who's reading your resume, they can tell when your resume is kind of generic and kind of broad for everybody. And it just becomes something that is just not really very interesting to read. I highly recommend customizing or tweaking your resume a little bit for each job that you apply for. So for example, if like you're trying to work at the mall and you want to work at one of your favorite clothing stores, for example, I would highly recommend that you go in there and you look. I mean, it sounds so like stalkerish, but it really does help. Go into the clothing store and look at what the other employees are doing to help around in the store. Are they folding clothes? Are they stocking? Yes, I will. Are they, stocking stuff in the back? Like, what are they doing? And then you're going to have to do that somewhere else. So, like, say, for example, you don't have any experience doing that stuff. You're going to have to make that experience happen. So, maybe you can go to, like, say, for example, I don't know, a Goodwill, or I don't know where, no, that's not a good idea. Somewhere where they would allow you to volunteer to fold clothes and put them away. Dáselo, mami. Dáselo. Or say, for example, part of your job would be customer service, like dealing with someone at the cash register or anything like that. You really have to go out of your way to get that experience wherever it is that you can. Um, Maybe you can go online and do some research on how to use a cash register. Now we have so much access to how-tos that it really has become a lot easier for younger people to get jobs. But it's all a matter of having that drive or that desire to want to learn things and prove to the employer that even though you don't have hands-on experience, you've learned how to do it because you really need a job. If you came up to me and you were looking for a job, and I felt like you might be a good employee, but I was asking you about your experience with the cash register, for example, and you were like, well, I have no hands-on experience, but I have been going on YouTube or I have been going online to research how to use cash registers, and I've really, really learned, like, if I can get my hands on one, I feel like I could really do it. That would be impressive because that's you showing a lot of effort and desire for wanting a job and wanting to obtain a job. So that's just an example. I mean, I don't know what type of job you guys are looking for, but it's just kind of giving you ideas. Okay, so you want to put those experiences or training that you've done in your resume. You want to bullet point them because it kind of makes it a little bit easier for the person who's reading your resume to kind of scan. That's another thing. When I am reading resumes, I never read them like all the way across. And if the resume is more than 3 pages long, forget about it. I'm not even going to look at it. I usually just look at like the first page, And then usually for me, the second page will include references or other stuff. But I never look at the whole thing. And I know I'm not alone here. A lot of employers don't look at the whole resume. Some might, just because they really like to read resumes, but I just don't have that kind of time. So what I do is I look for keywords. So for example, here's another thing, another trick that you can do is go to the job description and look at their skills that they're looking for. So for example, if they say they want someone who can work in a fast-paced environment, if they want someone who knows how to use Excel, if they want someone who knows how to do data entry, you want to take those keywords from the job description and you want to apply them to your resume, which is why I say you have to customize your resume based on each job description. So I know it seems like a lot of work, but it's work. So you have to put effort into the job. Another thing that will be really helpful is if you network. So this is kind of difficult for people who are antisocial because you don't really want to talk to people about, hey, I'm looking for a job or whatever, but it really does help to talk about it everywhere you go. Everywhere, like supermarket, at the mall, um, and though you may feel like it's a waste of your time to go in person and apply because you're like, well, they're not going to call me back. You just keep doing it and keep doing it. And not only that, but like on your off days, go in there and get to know the manager, get to know the employees that work there for the place that you want to work. Go in and say hi, learn their first names and say hi, it's, hi, whatever, Mary or Jane or whatever names, and how are you guys doing today? I just wanted to come in and say hi, and that's it. And you may feel weird doing this kind of stuff, but that's how bad you want the job. And for those of you that are antisocial, you don't have to do that, but it does help to just kind of get the word out and let like your friends and your family know, let your pastor from church know, let your teachers know, and don't just mention it to them. Like keep reminding them again and again, like every few days that you or whenever you see them, just say, hey, I just wanted to remind you I'm still looking for a job, I'm still having a hard time. Or if they ask you how you're doing, just say, I'm doing okay, I'm still looking for a job. Don't forget to keep reminding people because it stays in their brain, like, oh, and then when something comes up, they'll remember you. Okay, so network, network, network. It's so important. It's happened so many times. It's happened that people will get jobs because their friend referred them, right? I don't know if you guys have ever noticed that. Or like if they're hiring, for example, at some store at the mall, like usually they'll hire within their friends or their group of friends. So I know that kind of sucks, but that's why you have to network and that's why you have to go in there and get to know everybody, especially if you want to work in a job like that. Now, if you want to work in an office job, you really have to be persistent but not creepy. So you have to, follow up and ask them to be direct with you. So like say for example, they don't feel that you're the right candidate, tell them, ask them to tell you why. Like what is it that they felt that you were lacking or not lacking. That way you can try to figure out where you need to improve and do improve that part of you. So I hope that I answered like all the questions. Oh, there's a couple more things. Your interview is actually divided into several steps. The first one is your resume, which is the one where you give your first impression, believe it or not. The second one is where you give your in-person impression, and that's where you come in for an interview. The third one is where you come in usually for the second interview, and that's when you guys talk about like, usually they'll talk to you about money or, schedules or hours or whatever. And then your interview continues on at least 3 months after you've been hired, because though you may already have your foot in the door where they'll hire you and you're getting a paycheck, you still have to prove that you are the right person. So it's usually for about 3 months where you're working and you're proving that you can do it. And after that, it continues on for another year where they still kind of keep an eye on you and they still kind of consider you a new employee within the year. After that, as long as you continue doing your work well, you're pretty much good. And another thing is you definitely don't want to have a lot of dates jumping around in your resume. So try to keep consistent. Like if you don't like your job, it has to be for a really good reason. Try not to be one of those people who quits after like 2 months. You really have to be the type of person to find a solution for every problem that you encounter. So like say for example, you don't like your boss is being mean to you or whatever. look up in the handbook and find out what the procedure is. Don't just say, well, I don't like the way this, things work around here, I'm just going to quit. No, you have to find solutions, and that's what's going to make you a good employee, because you're resourceful and you don't resort to quitting. That when they see that you've been at a job for like 1, 2, or more years, it shows not only that you're loyal, but also that you are very capable of finding resolve, because there's no such thing as a perfect job. There's always going to be something wrong with your employer, but if you have to be able to kind of like not settle, but also find ways to maneuver through problems and find resolve. So now I hope that I've answered all of your questions. And if I didn't, you can go ahead and leave me a comment in the comments area. Um, I can offer help for like resumes if you guys like just want me to look at it. Unfortunately, because I get really overwhelmed with people who send me resumes and they want me to look at it and help rewrite it and tell them what's wrong with it. Like, I can't really do too much. But if you really want me to rewrite it for you or something like that, I might be able to work something out with you if you email me. I don't even know why I'm doing that, because it gets to be too much. But yeah, so yeah. Thanks, you guys. Bye.